Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to look at a video from about 6.5 or 7 months ago that I recorded on December 16th, 2018. This was before the Fantastic Four update. This was right around the time that Luna Snow was getting her Tier 3. It was about to be announced, or it was just announced. And I basically predicted, or I sort of just pointed out, that there were at least 13, there's more like 30 or 60 characters in Marvel Future Fight that need buffs, but I made a video about the 13 most desperately in need of buff characters. So I wanted to go back and take a look because it's kind of eye-opening. Now I know 2019 hasn't ended, but maybe if Netmarble is not keeping track, we can kind of remind them that for the year they're not doing very well. They don't have to necessarily rework these specific 13 characters, but overall you'll consider all of the characters that have gotten reworks, and then you'll consider the 13 that I've mentioned, and then you'll realize that it just really hasn't been that many, and we're already more than halfway done the year. Now, of course, this new update that's coming out in less than a week could bring many fruits, many of which could include reworks for these characters. But honestly, I doubt it. None of the characters that I'm about to mention, that I mentioned back in December, really match anything that's coming with this update, with Wave, with Silver Surfer, with Galactus. But we could have something random thrown in just for fun. But in the meantime, let's take a look and see how Netmarble's track record has actually panned out, and we'll also point out some videos that I've made in the meantime for these characters. So the first one is Drax. Drax is still trash, despite Endgame, despite him coming through one of the portals that Doctor Strange summons, despite him running and jumping on, I think it was Cull Obsidian. He didn't get any reworks. All he got was a level 70 buff. As you can see there, I'm level 62 and I can go higher. That's all Drax got, nothing else. Which is pretty sad, because, you know, where the hell else is he going to get a buff? I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is 2 or 3 years in the future, so this might be the best that Drax is going to be for a long time, which is disappointing, and there's really not too much else that we can do about it except hope, cross our fingers, that Netmarble actually reworks him. On the other hand, another combat character that I mentioned was really bad at the end of 2018 is Blade, and he's still terrible. He didn't even get a level 70, although he hasn't been featured in any MCU content. The only positive that I can say about Blade between December and now is that Mahershala Ali has been tapped to play Blade in a Blade MCU movie, but that is possibly 3-4 years in the future. Could be a long time. I don't even think they have a director attached to that one yet. So again, just like Drax, I don't see, unless they do like a Halloween update, which I would love them to do, but they seem allergic to, Drax is probably going to be joined by Blade as some of the most toilet tier characters in the game for years to come. The third one I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of why it incentivizes me to make this video, because as the updates roll in and as the months progress, I do get a lot of speculation from fans about what the next update could hold. And before we got the X-Men update, and before we got the first sneak peek that we knew it was an update of X-Men update back in, I guess, the end of April or the end of May type thing, when we got Rescue and Captain Marvel and stuff like that for Endgame Part 2 of 3, a lot of people were speculating that the next update was going to be War of the Realms, because we were in full swing. We were in like issue 3 or issue 4 of the War of the Realms storyline. It was killing it. Everybody was loving it. Critically and commercially, War of the Realms just did really well, and so people were like, yeah, you know what? Odin's gonna get a rework. It's gonna be dope. We're gonna get all these characters. Daredevil's gonna get a rework. Yada yada yada. Well, Odin and Daredevil are 2 characters that I mentioned on my list of 13 characters that need to get buffs, and guess what? Odin didn't get jack shit, despite having this very cool Uru looking armor that's kind of like half Iron Man, half Iron Hammer, half Odin. Yeah, our favorite Asgardian dad just continues to suck. Likewise, although Daredevil in War of the Realms, small spoiler alert here, became the god without fear, and he was wielding a cosmic sword, and he had, you know, this really cool glow to his eyes, didn't get anything in Marvel Future Fight. That's right, War of the Realms, huge feature on Daredevil. He has his own sub issues. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. So pretty disappointing for both Odin and Daredevil. I think Netmarble has potentially missed a huge opportunity. They could still do a War of the Realms update in the future. There's nothing stopping them from doing so. I think War of the Realms is going to go down as just a really good series. Maybe not as popular or as, impactful as something like Civil War, but definitely one of the best of the last, 5 years at least, I would say. It's definitely up there. So there's nothing stopping them from going back and checking it out. The next character that I want to talk about that could have gotten a rework, could have gotten an update, could have gotten anything, but didn't, is Super Giant. And unfortunately, Super Giant, again, was not featured in Endgame, despite, being part of the original Black Order when you look at the comics. Obviously, she wasn't featured in Infinity War. And the big letdown of Super Giant is that we could have gotten not only a uniform for her, but we could have gotten an upgrade to her ultimate World Boss stage. And I mentioned this in December, and it would have just been pretty... Not necessarily easy content for Netmarble to make, but it would have just made World Boss feel so much more whole, because now you have this, we still have this really awkward thing where 5 out of the 6 on the left side have their ultimate modes, and she doesn't. Now, we don't really need her for anything specifically, since the other 4 bosses give one of each of the Titan records, the books, and then Thanos drops all of them, but there could have been something else. Perhaps Super Giant just dropped CCF. Who knows? But maybe we'll never know if she never gets an upgrade, which is seeming more and more likely by the day. The next one, and this is one of the first that was actually buffed. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. One of my predicted characters that needed a buff desperately actually got it. This goes to show you, if you make enough prediction videos, eventually you will be right. And that is Storm, the elf princess goddess of weather. She, of course, got her buff when everyone was thinking it was going to be a War of the Realms update. She came in, she flew in with Jean Grey, Bishop, Iceman, and Jubilee for this massive 5-blast character upgrade. She got a huge bump in her damage and her survivability, tons of skill changes, passive effects. These are the kind of buffs that we want to see for farmable characters. We want to see buffs to uniforms that make them much, much better, more versatile, more flexible, and much more powerful. This is what I like. Congratulations, Netmarble, you're like 1 out of 6 right now, which is pretty awful in terms of percentages. The next one I want to talk about is Carnage, and Carnage has been mentioned for a long time as a character who should get a rework because he was one of the original paywalls along with Hyperion, and Hyperion got his rework, got his uniform. My dude Carnage, despite being in tons of comics, nothing. The kind of bright spot in the future of Carnage, although there are always bright spots for symbiotes and we always miss them year after year, wave after wave, is Absolute Carnage. It's a comic run that's coming on the heels of Donny Cates' run for Venom, and he's teaming up with Ryan Stegman, I believe, for Absolute Carnage, and it's looking to be extremely spicy. Now, originally when I saw the images for Absolute Carnage, I thought he fused with Bullseye because he has something going on in the middle of his head, but it's actually not the case. He did not fuse with Bullseye, although he is going to try to consume people or something. But I think the first issues are due for this next month, or the month that we're in now, August. So we wouldn't see Carnage for this update, but we might see Carnage possibly in a symbiote update at the end of August, beginning of September. Is it likely, given that Netmarble doesn't really like the symbiotes and never really makes any effort to make upgrades and updates about them? No. Would you put money on Carnage getting upgraded? No. But let me remind you, unlike Storm, if he gets an upgrade, he needs an upgrade to his base kit as well as a new uniform. Because unlike Storm, he's not farmable, so only upgrading Carnage with a uniform makes it extremely unfair to players who have gotten him and have been able to farm up his biometrics or used crystals to get his gears to 20 to get him to tier 2, but don't have the money for another bio subscription. So that needs to be pointed out. Paywall characters should have their base kits reworked whenever they get a rework, because that initial investment costs real money that should be reimbursed as well. The next one I want to talk about is another paywall character who also sucks, just like Carnage, Ironheart, and just like Carnage, she's been featured pretty recently. I think it was at the end of 2018. Champions had a few runs, and she, Ironheart, Riri Williams, along with Amadeus Cho, now called Braun for some reason, both got upgrades. It's Ironheart 3.0, and she looks really cool in this new suit. It's a really stark departure from this suit in terms of the color and aesthetics, so it would be an easy way for Netmarble to introduce a new uniform for a paywall character. And they've shown us that they have the ability and they know how to make really, really badass suit characters. You know, Rescue is amazing, War Machine got decent buffs, and then, of course, the second time around, I guess the third time around, Iron Man finally got the buffs that he deserves. So they could definitely throw some of that sort of, you know, Tin Boy love over to Ironheart, and I'm sure that she would become a much better character. She could become a support, she could become something else altogether, but she definitely still needs one, and you know, all those investments in her until now are basically wasted. It's just a leadership and nothing more. The next character I want to talk about, they did get a rework. Wow, Netmarble, you're 2 for whatever. Spoiler alert, they're 2 for 13. That's right, out of 13, they only reworked 2. Let's call it 2.5. The next one on the list, of course, is none other than the amazing, the fantastic, the incredible Hulk. He got his endgame rework despite not getting any love in Infinity War, and I suspected that he would get something for Endgame because he hadn't gotten anything since Ragnarok, and of course Endgame was coming just a few months after I made that video at the end of December. Now, was Endgame really what we wanted to see Hulk in? No. Besides the snap, he doesn't really do much. He has some comedic relief, but that's all. Is this uniform everything we wanted for Hulk? Not quite. Again, we're left, as both an audience and gamers in Marvel Future Fight, we're left with a sort of bittersweet taste in our mouths. Hulk does get the love, but he doesn't get the right amount of love or the right kind of love to really shine. And given his power level in the comics, given how beloved he is and how long he's been in comics, I really do think that Hulk deserves better than this. But he did technically get a rework, so I do have to mention that. The next one is Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider unfortunately has not been in many comics this year at all. I was able to find one panel where he shows up in Robbie Reyes' mind or something, and he sort of threatens him in a weird way. But yeah, Ghost Rider, I have no idea. Just like Blade and Drax, I don't know when Netmarble's going to decide that he deserves his play in the sun. Again, would be perfect for a Halloween update with Green Goblin and Blade and other sort of spooky characters. But in the 4 years that I've been playing this game, they've never done that for Halloween. Well, they did it once, actually. So, yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath for that. But I hope he does get something, and maybe Robbie can get something as well, although he doesn't need it nearly as bad as Ghost Rider does. They're both being, well, Robbie's being featured as an Avenger, but Ghost Rider looks like he's coming down the road on that motorcycle, so hopefully he'll get some love sooner rather than later in Marvel Future Fight. The second to last character I want to discuss is Jessica Jones, and the really disappointing thing about Jessica Jones is it's over. Her Netflix series completed its 3rd season. It's obviously going to be pulled because it's going to be appearing on Disney Plus sometime in the distant future because they've already announced the next 2 years of Disney Plus shows. So I don't know where to go here for Jessica Jones and for Jules. She's probably never going to get a rework unless she gets some sort of random upgrade where they give her that Jules sort of more cosmic looking flight suit in a random update. There's really no other reason besides that to actually give her a rework. So for those of you that have Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Drax, Blade, Supergiant, there's probably no good reason to invest in them right now. I give them CTPs of Rage. I tried them out. But yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything on the horizon, and I wouldn't invest in them at all until you see the writing on the wall, until you see the sneak peek that confirms it. Because until then, people have been speculating Odin's going to get a rework for literally years now. You know, if it hasn't happened yet, you can probably guess it's not going to happen unless some miracle happens. And speaking of miracles, the last character, the 0.5 on this list, is Vision. Believe it or not, I did pull Vision as one of the 13 heroes that desperately needed a buff in 2019. He died basically in Infinity War, didn't show up in Endgame. He's going to be in WandaVision. Obviously, he's half of the show's name. But he also got chosen. He got voted by you, by us, the community, to be the reworked character of 2019. And I know there are still a lot of people that haven't forgotten about that vote, haven't forgotten about that rework, and ask, where's the Vision update? Is Vision going to come in this update, Cynicalex? Are we going to get Vision and Silver Surfer? Well, honestly, I don't know. Maybe. Judging by how long it took Netmarble last year with Hyperion, we did the vote in April of 2018 or 2019. we should be seeing him in the last or second last update of the year. So I'm talking either the end of October, beginning of November, or the end of November, beginning of December for those Vision reworks. Anything sooner than that, you're just gonna have to be patient. There's really nothing else I can say. I don't know when he's coming, but it's probably not going to be in an update that revolves around Vision. It's probably gonna revolve around something else, and he's gonna be tacked on, a la Hyperion. I believe Hyperion was with the X-Men update with Magneto, or he might have been in the update after that with Sharon Rogers and the sort of female Korean characters with White Fox and Morgan Le Fay, etc., and Crescent and Io, the stand user. So with that being said, those are the characters that did not get reworked so far in 2019, and they along with a bunch of other characters, like, I mean, I can see some of them right now: Wong, Falcon, Kraven, Red Skull, Adam Warlock, Dormammu, tons of other characters: Magic, Cyclops, Rogue, Absorbing Man, America Chavez, Daredevil. Tons of characters in Marvel Future Fight still need buffs. So remember, let Netmarble know. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.